perceive ourselves or how others allow us to perceive ourselves has everything to do with bullying. Bullying is about control and forcing others to feel that they have no control over their own peace, dignity, and happiness. Why aren't 21st century women liberated enough to focus on topics other than dieting and sex? News racks are crammed with women's magazines which headline only one topic: dieting. I turn on the TV and no woman has much to say unless it's about the bulging butt she cannot squeeze into her skinny jeans. Well, there might be one other topic women are fixated on, and that's breast augmentation. The only part of a woman's body that's allowed to have any meat on it. Despite the women's movement, women are still insecure, self-flagellating infants who do not feel worthy of being mature, rational adults. They're too scared of the criticism of bitchy girlfriends who will laugh at them if they no longer fit into a size 0. Or they're afraid their pot-bellied boyfriend might ditch them for some hooker if they're caught eating a cookie. High school girls fear ridicule in the locker room or abuse from foul-mouthed boys out in the hallway. Fear is the driving force behind the diet industry and the body shaming they carry out against females who don't look like starving boys. TV women are intellectual vacuums who can't carry on a coherent conversation unless it's about sex or dieting. Why can't women, like men, be just as free to see themselves as unique human beings first, and male or female role players second? Why isn't society just as obsessed about changing what's on the inside of people? Why are women more obsessed by their boobs than their brains? How about a world where people are kinder, more considerate, and loving? Not one word about that. How reassuring to know you'll always have plenty of friends so long as your hair is straight and you look like a shriveled mummy. What kind of friendship is that when no one loves the real you, just the phony plastic imitation you? Every January after Christmas, a plague of diet commercials hits the boob tube. Their aim is to make you feel like an ugly freak, so you'll spend money on their starvation gimmicks. After watching 10 in a row, I feel like hurling a brick at the TV screen. A tall, skinny gal swivels around in her slinky dress to show she's got no bumps and bulges to be ashamed of. But her catty girlfriends, or some sexist male authority figure, bullies her into battling her own body. So Big Diet's slick commercial promises that if she'll only replace her meals with a delicious shake, she can lose even more weight. You've come a long way, baby. You've got your own baby formula now, not just your own cigarette. Babies are fed formula because they cannot eat solid food like grown-ups. Women still feed on liquid formulas because society tells them they don't deserve to eat solid food. If women weren't meant to eat For goodness sake, why in blazes did God give them teeth? So they could go get cosmetic dentistry and make them pearly white so they could tempt some man into bed? Is that all women are good for? And you never ever hear on diet commercials the scientifically proven fact that 95% of all diets fail over a long-term period. The body doesn't give a flip whether it looks like Kate Moss or not. It sees dieting and self-starvation as a threat to its existence, so it will conserve every calorie it can to avoid becoming a skeleton. That should tell you something. God didn't make everybody the same. And as long as you aren't dangerously big to the point where your health and your life are threatened, you should feel comfortable in your own skin and not allow anybody else to make you feel guilty. Did it ever occur to those idiotic health quacks that the tendency to be built like a starving Scandinavian, 6 foot tall, with toothpick arms and scrawny legs, just might be a hereditary characteristic like having frizzy black hair or brown eyes instead of blue ones? God didn't make everybody the same way, but it doesn't get through their thick skull that might be the case. Women and girls are indoctrinated into thinking that no man will get the hots for them till they look like a pile of chicken bones picked clean by a buzzard. Then and only then are they worthy of getting laid. It isn't just people who bully, it's the male-dominated mass media. If there weren't a big fat pile of money to be made off women's insecurities, women could finally feel like full-fledged adults instead of tiny sex toys who have to apologize for taking up space in a man's world. Why don't diet commercials give equal time to guys with toothpick legs and scrawny rib cages who could stand to lose 2 pounds of fat in their brain? Diet commercials are sexist propaganda designed to keep women perpetual children who are too terrified to grow up into strong adults like nature intended. The diet police's latest food labeling gimmick is to let you know you need to climb Mount Everest to burn off the calories in one popsicle. Don't those harebrained idiots realize it takes energy just to drag your dead body out of bed in the winter time? Your body needs energy to keep its thermostat at 98.6 degrees. Who ever heard of starving their car of gas it needs to run? It takes calories to keep your heart ticking 24/7. Food powers your brain, your gizzard, and all your other innards. It takes energy to run after kids, scrub dishes, or cram for a college exam. Some dingy diet experts advocate eating less than 1,000 calories a day to improve your health. All your body allegedly needs is 3 shakes per day. Eat your meal off a tiny saucer, barely enough to feed a toddler. Food is the death trap alcohol and cigarettes used to be. Even fresh grapes and bananas are a no-no because they're too sweet and make the body crave bigger sins. But I doubt most hard-working women will buy that propaganda. Only privileged princesses who have some sugar daddy to support them can afford to starve the muscle and the strength from their bodies. Starving improves optimum fitness. Try telling some sweaty gal scrubbing crud off of tables at some fast food joint that the water diet will boost her energy levels. Try telling folks in Africa that starvation gives them eternal life and they don't need Jesus for that. People who remember hard times when their refrigerator was always empty detest diet commercials. Even in rich countries, millions of people depend on food banks to hold body and soul together. Will the diet police tell these unfortunate folks to just nibble the lettuce in their box and throw out the cookies that would brighten up their miserable lives? The latest propaganda I read in the newspaper is a huge 2-page spread on this topic: how to forever stop eating chocolate and other tasty treats that are absolutely deadly to your health. Apparently, a person's enjoyment of sweet treats is caused by mental or emotional disorders, which are very complex in nature and often hard to diagnose. And of course, if you could stop eating sweet foods and live on fresh air and a toothpick, you'd be as healthy as Superman and live for all eternity. Hogwash! If God didn't intend for folks to enjoy chocolate, why did he put it on this earth in the first place? The very God who exhorts us to enjoy honey in moderation. The very idea implying that anybody with a sweet tooth is a mentally unbalanced freak. Why do newspapers print that crap? There's another asinine notion I read in that newspaper article. The diet police speculate that the reason people crave sweets and chocolate is that maybe it's at least partially attributable to some bullying experience in their childhood or other point in their life. But I've got news for those spurred brains. They're the ones doing the bullying. They're the ones making women feel ugly and putting complexes on them and making neurotics out of them and driving them to eating disorders, and sometimes eating disorders are actually fatal. They've got a lot to answer for. After all the hard work I have done in my lifetime and all the hard years I have lived in the past, I figure that I have earned the right to enjoy my Hershey bar in the privacy of my own home without being bombarded with stupid diet commercials and asinine articles about giving up anything that tastes better than a glass of vinegar. If anybody can't stand to watch a grown woman eat real food for lunch, to hell with them. Fully half of the human population is being bullied by big diet. Women with meat on their bones are monstrous misfits who ought to hide their shame behind closed doors. Solidly built folks are allegedly at greater risk of early death, but truthfully, everyone I knew who died young was skeletally thin at the time of their passing. Big diet promises you will love yourself more and be a better human being when you finish their program, but they never warn you their program is a life sentence of semi-starvation, and if you try to break free of their restrictions and start eating normally, you gain a whole new perspective on life. The diet industry exploits an unspoken fear most women live under, that if they don't stay skinny by torturing their own bodies that their peer group and society at large will torture them emotionally by subjecting them to scorn and ridicule. Contrary to the sexist, misogynist mass media, which teaches women to be scared of and fight their own bodies, thin doesn't automatically equal healthy. If I try to grow tomatoes out in the backyard, I prefer them to be plump and succulent. If my tomato plants start shriveling up, I know they're gonna die. Body shaming is every bit as much of a human rights violation as bullying people who aren't white, blonde, and rich. God didn't mass produce everybody the same, but bullies persecute diversity. Only skeletal white models promoted by the money-mad mass media are considered beautiful enough to merit respect. Satan is the master puppeteer pulling the strings of this fallen world. Consumers are effectively being remodeled to fit the products promoted by this corrupt world system, for these products need to be matched up with paying consumers. As old Bill Shakespeare might say, all the world is a corporation. Weight loss programs, drugs, and prepackaged meals need to be sold to as many people for as long a time as possible. An unrealistic, hard-to-maintain weight goal will ensure that the customer keeps on coming back forever and ever to spend hard-earned dollars. From a scientific perspective, human beings are nothing but bioplasmic gel bags which metabolize nutrients, assimilate oxygen, exhale carbon dioxide, and reproduce more of their own species before cellular degeneration takes its final toll in physical death. Women go to great lengths to fool others into thinking that they're still in the bloom of youth. They'll even go under the plastic surgeon's knife to pretend they're 16 instead of 60. Teenage girls gorge themselves and barf into a bucket to retain a shape that suggests they never assimilate nutrients into their depleted gel bag, now a bone bag. The closer to death fashion-conscious women drive their bony bodies, the more right society grants them to live life to the fullest. As their outward form shrivels, their unseen soul swells up in pride of meeting the expectations of their bitchy, backstabbing peer group. Ironically, a scrawny woman looks older when she's no longer a spring chicken. Her skin is more likely to wrinkle and sag. If it's pathetic for a 24-year-old to starve back down to the size of an 8-year-old kid, it's downright ridiculous for a 60-year-old grandmother to try this. Frankly, there's something perverted about a man who wishes his wife or girlfriend would turn herself into a little girl. Maybe he's afraid of strong women who tackle life with confidence in their own self-worth. Some sexist, macho males who bully women into an eating disorder can't see past their own sagging beer gut. The typical high school is a crucible of cutthroat cruelty, a den of devils, a bastion of satanic darkness, a microcosm of hell, where kids kick the underdog, to struggle to stay off the bottom of the social heap. The typical high school is an unfit environment to nurture Christian values in a young person. Any sweetness and goodness and Christ-likeness in the character of such a child is continually under attack by a peer group that vastly outnumbers him. High school is Satan's Abu Ghraib torture chamber, an outpost of hell where he destroys souls. Mike Crap, false name, a spidery scumhead with a shoe brush hairstyle, Coke bottle glasses, and bee-sting lips, hollered nasty names at me as I was going to the next class. He made fun of my figure and my frizzy hair. I didn't look like Toothpick Barbie, so he thought I was a sack of garbage. Mike was a skinny garden hose, spewing verbal diarrhea to show what a genius he was. He took off like a bat out of hell before I could bless him back. By the way, I didn't particularly love God back then because of all the church-going bullies at school, so I wasn't the soft-spoken angel I am today. Mike Crap and I are both up in years by now, and I just know that before long old Mike will go to his infernal reward to be with his daddy Satan if he hasn't repented. He and other cockroaches at Hog Pen High put an eating disorder on me when I was 17. Eager to get off the bottom of the social reject heap, I starved on a few hundred dinner-time calories a day. I felt weak and foggy. I started changing in ways a 50-year-old woman might. If I hadn't relented and added a daily bowl of cereal to my diet, my daughter might not be here today. Dieting has even infiltrated Christianity. Since the 70s, the Starving for Jesus heresy has sold millions of books. Unless a woman punishes her own body for sin by dieting, she can't minister for Jesus, who came eating and drinking. See Matthew 11:19 and Luke 7:34. Churches are run by male chauvinists who are connoisseurs of beauty. Conservative preachers like to see women sitting in pews, wearing skimpy skirts and revealing tops. Better yet, they like high heels that force a woman to swivel her hips and her hiney when she walks. Lusting after younger, prettier women in the congregation has caused more than one big-name preacher to divorce his wife of many years and get remarried to someone they think is a compliment to their ministry for the glory of God. Hogwash! Twist the Bible to excuse any flagrant sin, or preach any crap long enough and loud enough, and 90% of all Christians will swallow it as orthodox doctrine because they're just dumb, follow-the-leader sheep who think that it's a sin to think rationally. One night I flipped through all the TV channels. I counted 8 programs which taught people to be afraid of and hate their own bodies. Somebody must be getting rich off the big dieting craze, or it wouldn't continue to be people's #1 priority, and they would have time to get a life while they've still got a living, breathing body.